Hello everyone, this is part 2 of lecture 4 of the unit number 4, and in this lecture we are going to learn the say basics and some details about the services, which is the one of the core building blocks of Android operating system. Okay, as we have seen in the previous slides, and service is an application in Android that runs at the background without need to interact with the user, and that is why services does not have an user interface. It runs at the background. For example, while using an application, Android application, one might want to play some background music at the same time. Okay, it means suppose you are working on your mobile phone and you are reading the email messages, and simultaneously you want to listen to some music or audio songs. Then in that case you can play the audio song, it will play at the background, and at the same time you will read your messages, email messages or some other stuff. Okay, for these purposes services have been used. It means in this case, to play a background play a song at the background, services has been used, right? And in this case, the code that is playing the background music has no need to interact with the user, and hence it can be run as a service. Services are also ideal for situations in which there is no need to present user interface to the user. For example, suppose an application that continuously logs the geographical coordinates of the device, right? So one application is there and that continuously detects the geographical coordinates. It means what is latitude and what is longitude of the location at which that device is currently present, right? So it tracks the location of the user, in other words. Okay, and for such applications there is no need of user interface, because that application is going to capture the values of longitude and latitude at the background, and these values can be written into some into the log file, which will be stored into the internal storage of your phone. Okay, that is why such applications doesn't require user interfaces, and such requirements can be implemented in the form of Android services, right? In this particular example, a service can be written that do the work of recording the geographical coordinates in the background without interfering to the user or interacting with the user. And service is implemented as a subclass of an inbuilt class that is called as a service, as shown in this particular snippet, right? So if you want to implement your own service, then it will be done like this one. It means you have to define one public your defined class. In this case it is a my service, and it extends the built-in class service. It means my service is inherited from the class service. In this way you can define or implement your own service. Then the life cycle of the Android service. As we have seen, the life cycle of the Android activity is one of the core building block. Similarly, Android service is also one of the core building block. That is why Android service also have a life cycle, and this life cycle of service have two states or two parts. First one is called as the started, and another called as the bound. So started service and bounded service. So first we will see the started service. A service is started when a component like activity calls the method called as the start service, right? So whenever a particular component or particular activity calls the start service method, then that particular service will be started, and it is called as the started service. Once service is started, it will run in the background indefinitely until and unless it is stopped explicitly, or the service which is running at the background it can be stopped by using a stop service method, or in some cases service may be stopped by itself by calling stop self method, right? So if one of these two methods have been called, then the service which is running at the background will be stopped, right? And whenever one of these two functions is called, the service can be stopped. Okay, this uh, right. Then we will see the bounded service. Service is bound when the another component, like say client component may be there. It calls the bind service method. This service cannot be, once service is started, it cannot be stopped until the client unbind that particular service. For example, suppose you want to play a music in the background, so it will call the start service method, and when start service method is called, background music will be started playing at the background. But you want to get the information about what is the current song which is playing at the background, right? In that case, what you can do, you will bind a service, you can create another service and you will bind that service so that it can provide the information about the current song, right? So it is called as the bounded service. Then we will see the life cycle of Android service in the graphical form. Right. So these are the steps which are the which indicates the life cycle of unbounded service, and these steps represents the life cycle of the bounded service. So we'll see one by one here. In both cases, whatever this area rectangle, say yellow rectangle is here, it is the active lifetime of the unbounded service as well as the bounded service. Right. So here first of all we will see the unbounded service. When a call to the start service method is invoked, then the first function which is called, that is called as the onCreate function, right? And this onCreate function is called whenever a service is created either using onStart command. Okay. So when onStart command is called, then this onCreate function will be called to start that particular service. The next function is that onStart command. So Android service calls this method when a component like activity requests to start that particular service using start service method, right? So whenever a particular activity want to start one particular service, it will call this main method which is its start service, and this method will call onStart command, and then it will call the onCreate command, right? Once the onStart command method is called, then this service will be running at the background, right? This service will be run at the background as long as it is not stopped by itself or by the other application, right? And when this service is no longer in use, then system invokes this method that is called as the onDestroy, and when onDestroy method is called, then service will be shut down. Similarly, in case of the bounded service, this onCreate method is called whenever service is created using this onBind function. Okay. So when the onBind function is invoked, so it is invoked whenever an application component like say activity calls the bind service method in order to bind itself with the service, right? There may be some another activity that want to bind itself with this particular bounded service, and that activity will call this onBinds method or onBind function. When this onBind function is called, then it will call the onCreate function, and then after calling the onBind function, the clients are bounded to the service. Okay, there may be one client or there may be more than one clients as well, right? And this particular service will be bounded to the clients as long as all the clients unbind by calling the method which is called as the unbind service. Okay, and this unbind service method is called by an Android system when all clients are get disconnected from the particular service interface. Then and only then Android system will call this onUnbind method. And whenever the service is no longer in use, it may be unbounded service or it may be bounded service, then the system call this onDestroy method. Now once the onDestroy method is invoked, then the service will be shut down, whether it may be unbounded service or it may be bounded service, right? Now we will see one practical example of the Android service, and in that example we will see how to create a service that plays background music, that play audio song at the background, and while that song is playing we can perform the other activities as well, until and unless that background service is stopped explicitly by the user. We will see in this particular practical example, right? So here I have created an Android application whose name is music service, which is shown here, and this particular Android application have two activities. First one is the main activity and another is the my service, and this my service activity is our user defined Android service that is implemented from the service inbuilt class of the Android operating system. So first of all we will look at the .java code of the my service file, which is here. One more important thing here is that since we have the two activities in Java folder, in layout folder we have only one layout file, that is activity underscore main.xml, because our second activity is the service, and service doesn't need user interface. That's why it's there is no requirement of the layout file for a service, because in layout file generally we define the user interface and service doesn't require any user interface. That is why often service, Android service will not require any layout file in the layout folder under resource folder. Okay, now we will see the code for my service file, right? So here are some packages and classes which are imported, and this is my service, which is the public class which extends the service. So how to create this particular file? For that you need to click on the file menu, then select new, and then from here you need to select service and click on the service menu here. Okay, so it will one window, give a proper name here. If you want to if you want this service to be communicated by the other applications as well, then it check this exported and enabled, otherwise uncheck it. Okay, and after giving a name here, since I have service with the same name, that's why this finish button is disabled. As soon as I change this my service one, then it will be enabled, and then you have to click on the finish button. As soon as you click on the finish button, it will generate one service file for you. But right now I have already created my service, so I am not going to create the other service here, so I will cancel it. In this way you can create a file for the Android service, and automatically some code will be added there. Okay. Now what we want to play audio song at the background, right? And for that we need to define and create an object of the class called as the media player, which is the inbuilt class in the Android. Okay, so here we are declaring the object of the media player whose name is a player, right? And then as we have seen in the life cycle of the service, it has a function or method that is called as the onStart command. Okay, and this function is called, or execution of the service will start on calling this onStart command, and this function will be called by an activity which want to start the service. Okay, just we are overriding the methods of this service class. This @override keyword indicates that we are overriding the methods of the base class in our inherited class as per our requirements. Okay, as you are able to see here, this start command method have two parameters. First one is the object of intent. Sorry, three parameters are there. First one the object of intent, another is some integer flags, and third one is the integer start id, right? Now when this function is called, first of all we need to play a particular song or required song by calling a create method of the media player class. Okay, so this create method accepts two parameters. First one is the context of the current activity. This can be obtained by this keyword, and another is the path of song which you want to play. Okay, and all this will be stored in the object of the music player. In this case it is a player which we have declared here. Okay, now about the second parameter, which is the song which you want to play. This song should be stored into your resource folder. Okay, so this r.raw. Some name indicates that this is the resource folder, and this is the again subfolder whose name is raw, and the third parameter indicates the actual name of the song you want to play. But here condition is that this name should be all in lowercase and it should be specified without extension. It means it should not contain extension like .mp, mp3 or .mp4 or .wav. It should not contain any format that indicates the audio files. Okay, it should be without extension, and your file name or song name should be in all lowercase letters, right? So this song is stored in the res folder, which is here, and under res folder raw folder is there, which is here, and under raw folder this is kkg.mp3. This is the actual audio file which you want to create. But observe that this .mp3 extension is not given here. If you give its extension here, then your application will not run the required song. Okay, so in onStart command method, in order to play a song, you need to call the create function of the media player, and you need to give the path of the song where it is stored. Then next attribute or next method which should be called is that is called as the set looping, right? And this method should be called on the object of the player. Okay, and if you want to play that song again and again, it means once a song is finished, as soon as song is finished, if you want to start it again, then this set looping is set to be true. Otherwise it should be set to false, right? And after doing these two things, then we have to start the process by calling the start method on the player object. So player.start will start the process of playing a song. okay, and it will return the status of the program, which is the start sticky. It is a predefined macro. Okay, so this was about the start command method of the my service class. Now second method, it is called as the on destroy, and this method is called whenever there is that service is no longer in use, right? And this on destroy method calls the same method of the base class by using super keyword, and then it will call the stop method on the player object. Okay, so the stop method will stop your service, and your song will be stopped from playing. Okay, and this is a on bind method, which is for the bounded services, and since this is not a bounded service, we are implementing unbounded service. That's why it is returning a null value. I hope you have understood the working of this code of this particular my service.java file. Now we will move towards the main activity.java file. Before that, we will look at the user interface of the main activity.java. Right. So here our user interface of main activity is like this one. This is the title of our application, that is services in Android, and we have just two buttons. First one is for start service and another is for stop service. When start service is clicked, then that service will be my service will be started, and it will play an audio song at the background until and unless user click on the stop service button. Okay, and if you see its text view, it will be like this one. This is a linear layout because we have to say arrange the components one below another. That's why we have set here linear layout, and its orientation is set to the vertical here, right? And we have one text view whose text is set to the this particular services in Android text. Again, it is stored in the string.xml with the name heading. So if you see values strings.xml, this is the heading, string resource whose name is heading, and this is text services in Android. So this text is set to this text view. That's why it is shown in this here. Now we have two buttons. So this is the first button whose text is set to, where is the text property? It is start service, and its ID is start button, whereas second button's ID is stop button, and its text is stop service. Very simple user interface is there. Now what is the functionality? When user clicks on the start service button, then something should be happened. That is why we need to create two button objects, one for start service button, another for the stop service button in the main activity.java file. Okay, so here now we'll see the code of main activity.java. Right. So this is a public class main activity, which is a defined class, which is inherited from app contact activity. Now this is a multiple inheritance in Java because it is inheriting app compact activity class, and it is implementing an interface which is on click listener. Okay, because we want to implement the event handling on the start service button and stop service button. That is why we are implementing this particular on click listener interface by with this particular main activity class. Okay, and as I said earlier, we have the two buttons. That's why we have declared here the objects of the two buttons. So this is a class button, and start and stop are the two objects. Start is for start button, stop is for stop button. Then again, set content view will set the layout, whatever layout is defined here, you will set this layout to the this particular activity, And similarly, using a find view by id, the layout of these two buttons will be set to this object of start and stop button by using find view by id. Okay, and we need to register the event handler for this start and stop buttons. That is why we are calling set on click listener on the start and stop object whose type is the button, and we are passing the parameter as a this pointer. It means object of this class itself, because here we are implementing the interface of on click listener. That is why we are passing this value. Otherwise we need to call the set on click listener, then we need to create a object of view, then we need to click on click function. But in this case we are directly implementing the interface. There is no need to follow those steps. We can achieve the registration of event handler in this way. Okay, now next is the on click function. So whenever one of the button is clicked, this on click function will be called, right? And this view object will contain the text of that particular button. For example, if user has clicked on the start service button, then this view will contain object of the start button. Okay, so it will not contain text of the button, but it will contain actual object of the button which is clicked. Okay, it means if start service button is clicked, then it will return the start object, or in other case, if user has clicked on the stop button, this button stop service button, then this will return the object of stop, because we are binded the stop button to the object of stop. Right, now we'll see the code of the on click button. So whenever one of the button is clicked, this on click function is called, and here we are checking the value of hue. If value of hue is equal to start, it means start button is clicked. And whenever start button is clicked, what we want to start a service. Okay, and that is why here we are calling a start service button, say a start service method, and we are passing an object of intent here using a new keyword. Okay, and this to this intent object we are passing the current context and which activity we want to start, that is a my service. Hence it is specified as a my service dot class. Okay, as we have seen in the life cycle of the service, whenever a particular component like activity want to start a particular service, then it will call the start service method. Okay, and the start service method accepts an object of intent which specifies which service or which component is to be started. In this case, my service dot class it refers to the my service dot java file. Okay, so whenever this function is called, it will call this particular say my service dot java file, and it starts its execution say with the start on command function. Okay, and then we are displaying one message by using a toast class. So toast dot make test. Toast is one of the user interface control we will see in later on say lectures. So toast dot make test current context, and text is service started, and duration of this message is given as a length underscore long, so that it will show the message for some more time or long time. Other case, if user has clicked on the stop button, then this condition will fail and it will enter into the else if, right? And here if u is equal to stop, then we want to stop that particular service. right? In that case, this main activity will call the stop service method, and it will send intent of this same class as a parameter, that is new intent of this means current context, and this particular activity want to stop the service which is implemented in my service dot java file. So here, while giving the parameter to the intent, it should be contain a dot class extension. So when this method is called, so this on destroy method of this my service will be called, and your service will be stopped there. And after stopping a service, here again we are displaying a message to the user that service stopped. Okay, so this was the code of the my service and main activity dot java file. Now we will run this application and we will see whether it works or not. So I will run this application, and I will select the same emulator which is or AVD which is currently here, and click on OK button. Here the song which I have selected is KKKG. It means Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. That's why I have named it that KKKG. So this song is not a particular choice, but whatever song was available with me on my machine, that song I have selected. There is no special intention behind selecting this particular song. Okay, so this is our application is running on emulator. If you see this user interface, it is similar to that one which we have defined in the layout file. Right now, as soon as I will click on the start service, it should play a song with whose name is Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. So enjoy the song for a time. Now I will click on the start service button. Playing a service because your service has been stopped, and when your service has been stopped, your song will be also stopped. Okay, so in this way you can implement a service if you have requirement to do some particular task at the background. In this example, practical example, we have seen how to create a service that plays an audio song at the background, but you can create a service that also download a file at the background as well. Okay, so thank you for listening. Now we'll stop here.